Good morning, everyone. I'm just going to wait for you guys to tune in on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. Let me know if you guys can see me. I think I'm having issues on Facebook and YouTube. Let's try this again. If you're on Instagram, can you guys see me? Put a thumbs up if you can see me. Someone says, hello, pastor. I'm not a pastor. Je suis Ceci, good morning. Peaches, good morning. Busal Army, good morning. Queen Warrior. Okay, you can see me. Good morning. Okay, I think that you guys can see me on Facebook. It keeps going in and out on my own end, but if you guys can see me, then that's great. Vondi. So my name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration lawyer and I represent clients all over the U.S. and internationally with their family immigration matter. If you'd like to immigrate to the U.S., or you're already in the U.S. and you want to get a green card or citizenship, we're happy to help you. Our number here is 407-995-6567. You can also send a WhatsApp to 404-333-8751. Today, I want to talk about conditional green cards. I've been getting a lot of questions about conditional green cards as a lot of people's green cards are about to reach that time for removal of conditions. As I'm sure most of you who follow immigration know, someone says, say the number again. It's 407-995-6567. You can send a WhatsApp also to 404-333-8751. Okay. Someone says, type the number in the chat. Let me just type it real quick so I can continue the topic. 1 second. I went to go 995. Okay, guys, it's so hard for me to talk and type numbers at the same time. So that's our number. Let me just pin it. Okay, so the number is pinned and you should be able to see the number now. Thank you. It's K-Baby. So I want to talk about conditional green cards, as I mentioned. As I'm sure a lot of you who follow immigration, you know that, last year, or even ending of 2020, what year in 2024, 2022, but really more last year, we saw a lot of green card interviews being waived for people who had marriage-based green cards, where in the past, this is not the norm. You have to have an interview to determine if your marriage is legit, and all of that good stuff. So what we noticed about a lot of people who got that waiver of interview was that a lot of those people are or have been married for under 2 years. And so because they've been married for under 2 years, their process is not completely done. They have to file for removal of conditions. So that's really what I want to talk about. But first, let's start first with what is a conditional green card. A conditional green card is a temporary 2-year green card that is given to anyone who's been married for under 2 years, or if you're filing as a child with your parent and your parent hasn't been married for more than 2 years, you will also get a 2-year conditional green card. What that means is that, you cannot just apply to renew your green card at the 2-year expiration date. You have to file for what we call removal of conditions on your green card. And, in order to remove the conditions of your green card, basically you have to prove that you have a good faith marriage, right? So people think, okay, well, I already just got this approved, I'm just going to send the form. But no. So whatever you had to submit when you submitted your initial marriage-based case, you have to submit those things again. However, you have to submit current evidence. So if you got approved for your green card, for a 2-year green card in 2023, and the evidence you submitted was from, your marriage in 2022, or early 2023, when you're applying after for the removal of conditions, now you're going to have to submit evidence from 2023, the day you got your green card, to the 2-year timeline. So let's say 2025. So they're looking for new evidence. They don't want to see things that you submitted in your initial application. They want to see things that you continue to show. The idea is that they don't want people to just get those 2-year green card and just be like, peace out, I'm out, of the marriage. I've gotten my green card. They want to continue to see good faith marriage. In my practice, I have found that conditional removals are much more challenging and complex than the typical marriage-based case, because there's certain allowances that are not easily given as they would be if, let's say, you hadn't gotten a green card before, i.e. now you have a green card, now you have a social security number. So they're definitely tougher on you in trying to get proof of your marriage. They're no longer going to buy the excuse of, well, we couldn't get a bank account, or my name couldn't go on the lease, or we couldn't get a credit card. I'm just listing random things. But of course, as I'm sure you guys know, there are exceptions to the rule, like every other rule. So some of these exceptions, when you're applying for removal of condition, there's something called a waiver of joint filing. So a waiver, in order to be eligible for a waiver of joint filing, you have to fall into one of these 4 categories. 1, your spouse is now deceased. You and your spouse have divorced. Your spouse has committed extreme cruelty and battery towards you. And then, of course, the 4th one is extreme hardship. Obviously being deceased is self-explanatory. Divorce is also self-explanatory. A lot of people call and say, my spouse wants to divorce me, and they themselves don't even want to be in the marriage, but they're afraid to get out of the marriage because they have this, 2-year conditional green card. So you can still remove the conditions in your green card, even if you and your spouse get divorced. The most important thing is that you have to prove that your marriage was genuine. Your marriage continued to be genuine. I mean, USCIS cannot force people, to stay in a marriage that's not working for them, but the most important thing is this marriage a genuine marriage? Was this marriage a genuine marriage? The same applies for extreme cruelty. So not only do you have to, in that case, prove that your marriage was genuine, in this case, you also have to prove that, you suffered extreme cruelty and battery. The standards of this are much higher than, say, in a VAWA case where there's no green card, there's no social security number, there's no EAD, any ability to work or gain financial independence, or really have any way to identify yourselves. Which is why, like, when you have a VAWA case, this part is a little legalese, what I'm about to talk about right now. Like, with a VAWA case, like, for instance, the standard is any credible evidence. Like, what credible evidence do you have to submit? But when you come to removal of condition based on extreme cruelty, it's more narrow. I mean, it still says not limited to, but it's not any credible evidence any longer. There's certain things you're looking for, and typically you do get badgered in interviews, really wanting to understand that. So it's really important that if you are in a marriage, that you try. I know that for some people, they try to, as a form of coping, they try to compartmentalize, all the, the abuse that they've experienced and may not remember them or recall them. But it's really important to try to remember the things that have happened to you, because they're not going to let you off the hook without you talking about those things and explaining it to the way that the officer understands it. And if they do, then they will grant you a 10-year green card. Keep in mind that with the removal of conditions based on extreme cruelty or abusive behavior, you will still be eligible to file for citizenship if you were married to a U.S. citizen and you've had that green card for 3 years. They start counting your green card timeline from the date of the original 2-year green card, not the day of the 10-year green card. If it's based on divorce, then you have to wait 5 years from, of course, the date of marriage. And I just wanted to, of course, touch base a little bit on some of pop culture, because I'm sure, you guys have seen what's going on with Diddy and Cassie and the really, really terrifying and atrocious abuse that she faced, and, they posted the videos about, and just, what came about that. And, a lot of times, a lot of comments, I read and I see where people were like, well, why can't the person fight back, or why can't the person leave, or the shock of it being that this is a beautiful woman who in her own right was successful, and a musician, and I think even a model before she met him. But this is the nature of abuse, like for a lot of people, including his former mother of his child, who has passed away now, Kim Porter, God rest her soul, where we see so many people that on their face they're so strong, and the psychology behind abuse is that someone is saying they can't hear me. Can you guys hear me on Instagram or on Facebook or YouTube? Well, if you can hear me, let me know in the comments. Let me see what's going on. I know that I don't know if I'll be able to fix it, but if you can hear me, let me know. Nandi, you can also try turning on your volume, or coming out of the live and then going back into the live. Okay, they can hear me. So go out and then come back in to see if you hear me better. But, like for a lot of these victims, they don't fight back, because one, maybe the person overpowers them. Maybe in a case of abuse, there's fear that, they're not going to believe them. That person has more power than them. And I want to talk about this phrase called power, because when I say power, I know that some of the men here may misconstrue that as me saying it's not only women that experience abuse. Power in this case could take many forms. Power could be in the form of physical abuse. Power could be in the form of what you have that makes you puts you at a higher level than the person. So in immigration cases, while abuse with VAWA and conditional green card removals apply to both men and women, sometimes it's not about physical power. It's about control. Control is a form of power. If someone has a U.S. citizen status and says, well, you could go try to call the cops, they're going to believe me over you because you don't have papers. I'm going to tell them that you're working illegally. I'm going to call the IRS and tell them that you're working undocumented. That is a form of subjugation and bondage. So that is a form of power. And so for a lot of people, there's so much more at stake. And the fear of what the outcome or how it will cascade is what sometimes keeps people, in these relationships, or takes them a lot more courage to come out of these relationships, and say, what, I qualify for this, I'm going through this, I want to speak up about it. And for a lot of people, they're dealing with this and the people around them don't know that they're dealing with that, because there's a lot of shame. There's a lot of shame related to abuse, So, sometimes I meet with clients and I'm like, well, do you have anyone that can write an affidavit? Is there anyone you confided in? But for a lot of them, people have this, idea, oh, you're living in America, you're living this beautiful life, this wonderful life, or whatever it is. How can you possibly be going through this? So there's a lot of shame, in talking about that. And I suspect that that's why it took Cassie that long, because when you look at her, she's dealing with this horrendous abuse, but yet, she's, they're posting pictures of them in Saint-Tropez, south of France, in a yacht, and living this lifestyle that people cannot relate to without knowing what she's going through, behind closed doors. There's a song that Tamar Braxton, I don't know if you guys know Tamar Braxton, Toni Braxton's sister, she wrote about saying something like, all those women, crying for Chanel bags or something like that, but nobody knows the hell they've gone through to get that, essentially saying that, people experience so much abuse, but on the surface, you have no idea. So abuse takes many forms, not only physical, and abuse takes many forms also for men. I know someone commented on my Instagram yesterday saying, well, it's not fair, everything is for women. Men experience abuse, and everyone who follows me and who has followed me for a long time, that we represent men. I would even say we may have more men than women, that we represent. Abuse is not only women. VAWA is not for only women. Yes, the name says Violence Against Women's Act, but it is for men as well. It is for children as well. And it is for parents as well. So there's no such thing as, it favors men or it doesn't favor men. Men experience abuse in many ways. A lot of times, people take advantage of immigrant men because culturally, a lot of men not from America look at themselves as providers, and what I mean by that, not to say that American men are not providers. So before anybody misconstrues what I'm saying is that America has more of a very joint partnership. We can both contribute, we can both split the bills, we can, do whatever. So for a lot of immigrant men, they've come from very strong patriarch societies where they hunt and gather, like they take care of their spouses financially. So, when they come here, people take advantage of that mentality and decide, what, I'm not going to work anymore. I need X amount of dollars to do this. I need X amount of dollars to do it. I had this guy, I remember, like his wife basically started abusing him because he didn't have the money to buy her a Range Rover, and she wanted a Range Rover while he was driving a beat up, I don't know what beat up car it was, but he literally did not have the money. So, they experience abuse in that way. A lot of times their abuse is financial, and a lot of times their abuse is sexual. Women use their power, their sexual prowess, as a way to, abuse men, as well, to basically not give them a say in their family planning or birth control, or are we having a child, or am I trapping you with a child? So there are many ways that everyone experiences abuse. But basically what I'm saying is that, seeing what happened to Cassie, I completely understood it, just because we live it every single day here. Like when I tell you guys, like sometimes in consults, I will literally be crying, hearing what is happening, or when I start seeing evidence of what happens to some of my clients, as I'm sure they'll tell you, like, what is happening to this Cassie doesn't even scratch the surface of what is happening to so many, and they don't have any way to escape or get out of it. So for people that get upset, saying, people are trying to, do this or game, people are really going through it. So while that's off the soapbox, let me answer some questions that I see on here. Okay, someone says, how long after a VAWA approval can it take to get the I-485 approved? The I-485 was held in abeyance. Do you have to write to the service center to let them know that the VAWA has been approved? Also, if your case was held in abeyance, the VAWA units in Vermont should automatically transfer that approval to the service center. So if you did an initial medical and your medical has expired, or if when you submitted your VAWA, you didn't submit an I-864W, which could have happened if you submitted your VAWA around 2020, right before, what year did Biden enter? Okay, 2021. So between 2020 and, I'm trying to remember now, 2020, either 2020 to like mid 2021, because that period they stopped accepting I-864Ws, which is a waiver of the financial affidavit of support, because that was the time that President Trump instituted the well test, and the I-485, you had to do the public charge stuff. So for people who submitted their VAWA, then most likely, they're going to send an RFE to you asking you for that. To submit that, or for your medical. But we're definitely seeing about 2 to 6 months on average from VAWA approval to you getting your green card, if everything is okay. Now, I will tell you guys to beware while we're at it. Even if you get your VAWA case approved, an I-485 approval is not a slam dunk if there are things that you did not disclose in your application. It is so important, guys, to be honest with your attorneys or with your application when you're filing, because a lot of people who don't end up getting approved for that green card is because they lied about something in their B1, B2 application that their attorneys were not privy to, or they assumed, or maybe they even forgot, and a lot of times it has to do with marriage. a lot of times it has to do with marriage. Either filling out an application saying you're married, but you were not really married, or saying that you're divorced, but you're not really divorced, on your B1, B2. So guys, when you're applying for anything in the US, always remember your whatever you submitted in your B1, B2, which is a tourist visa, when you're leaving your home country, always want to remember whatever it is that you wrote, because it can come to haunt you. Well, with the 5-year work permit, would applying for a travel document be looked at negatively on a pending application for asylum? We don't recommend traveling on asylum unless you're not going there. Well, I guess I don't know. What are you applying for? Is your work permit based on asylum? Because you're applying for travel permit based on asylum, or another application where you have a pending asylum case? Okay. Let's see. Let me try and answer some of those questions. I filed for my son 2 years ago. He's 15 years old. The case is out of processing time. I called Congress and they did nothing about it. What can I do? Have you tried? Well, where is his case? Is it at the consulate or is it in US? Are you a green card holder? Are you a US citizen? All of these things affect timeline. Okay. I received an EAD approval, but I haven't received it yet. Let me turn off my heater. It's so hot in here. But I did receive my social security number. Is that's normal? It has not been 30 days. Usually, if you haven't received it after 30 days, you want to check in. You can also log in and see on your USCIS case, like go to your USCIS case tracker and see if it's been shipped out. If it's been shipped out, usually there'll be a tracking number there where you can track it. Like there's certain, I don't know about other states, but like for instance, in the state of Georgia right now, the mail system is going through like some sort of like overhaul where they created like a new warehouse where all mails have to come into that facility and be sorted. So it's really caused undue delay for a lot of mails that are going out through the United States Postal Service. And so it's basically required us to spend the additional money on FedEx and UPS until they can sort that. But CIS sends your mail through United States Postal Service, so it depends on where you are. So check those things first to see where it is. It's the quality for me. Says, any of y'all ever traveled on I-131 advanced parole? I haven't. I'm a U.S. citizen. However, a lot of my clients have. In order to travel on advanced parole, it really depends on your immigration history, where your case is. For my clients, I always recommend that before they travel or book a trip, they should always confirm with us that it is okay for them to travel, and then we'll just assess, their whole case history and let them know. Is it possible to sue USCIS when your case is still pending? Yeah, you could, if your case has been out of processing time in a way that's ridiculous. One of the things I recommend is that you really should have a slam dunk case and feel strongly about the evidence that you submitted to file the lawsuit. So that you can get approved, instead of them basically saying, okay, you want a response, we're going to go ahead and deny you because you're not eligible. What if they broke up because of the treatment you received from your wife or your husband? I guess this was in relation to me talking about conditional green cards. Again, if you have a conditional green card, if you broke up with your spouse because of the treatment, you might want to look at whether you qualify for a waiver based on divorce or a waiver based on extreme cruelty and battery. With extreme cruelty and battery, you don't have to be divorced to file that. And with divorce and extreme cruelty, as well as debt, you don't have to file. You don't have to file within the 2-year window. You can file these applications early, and you can also file it late if you can prove, that your reason for filing it late. With abuse, you can file it late. Well, with divorce, as long as you can explain that it was not due to your fault that you filed it late. What about getting a green card for a marriage for 3 months? Yeah, so if you get a green card because you've been married for 3 months, you will still get a 2-year conditional green card if at the time they make a decision on your case, you've only been married under 2 years. My work permit hasn't been issued since I applied in March last year. Biometrics done since May last year. Is this normal? I would say that you've probably passed a normal processing timeline. So this is a good time to reach out to USCIS to request a decision. I do have to jump off, guys. I'll chat with you all later. I hope you guys have an amazing day and rest of your week if I don't get to see or talk to you guys. All right, bye.